Hello, everybody. I'm Doug Flynn, and welcome to the Doug Flynn Show. You know, when we started doing this podcast, we wanted to talk about a lot of issues that are going on in the world today and give my opinion, want to hear some of your opinions. Then we want to see what the Bible says about it. And we're going to continue doing that. But this week, we lost one of my dear friends and a great hero of many of us. If you're a Cincinnati Reds fan, then we lost Pete Rose, 83 years of age. And a lot has been said over the last week since he passed away. And so today, I have to honor him. And there's a lot of different reasons why I want to honor him. One, he was a great teammate. Two, he kind of taught me how to be a professional baseball player because he always had time for young players. Three, he and his wife, Carol, introduced me to my wife, Olga, and we've now been married 42 years. And so today, I've been hearing a lot of negative stuff about him. We all know about his gambling problems. I'm not here today to cast the first stone. I've got a lot of things that I'm not proud of that I've done. Pete made a mistake, and he paid for it for 40 years. You know, if you go out and shoot somebody and commit a murder or a robbery, you spend 10 or 20 years in jail, and then they let you out. Pete bet on baseball. And by doing that, it's kept him away from the game that he loved so much. And I think that's what separated him from a lot of the players that play the game today is Pete loved the game. He wasn't there for the money. Now, he likes money, obviously. But when he was playing at his best, he was making $100,000, $150,000 a year. The minimum salary today is $750,000. So Pete loved the game and got paid for it. There's a lot of people that love the money and then to go out and play the game. That was not him. I've got so many stories of good things he's done. I'm going to share just a couple today as we honor my bud. 83 years of age, but 1977, I'm going to spring training. When you have 2 years in the big leagues, you have to stay at the hotel down at spring training where all the players stay. Unless you got 3 years in the big leagues, you can stay outside. And that was good for a lot of the married folks. So I had 2 years in the big leagues. My sister had just disappeared in January, and I was on my way down to Florida. So I called the general manager, and I said, Dick Williams was his name. I said, Dick, I've got a situation going on with my family. I need to stay outside of the hotel. I want to bring my mom and dad down to spring training because we've got a lot of investigative stuff going on. I don't want to be around a lot of the media folks, and I want to be someplace where we can have a little privacy. And Dick Williams basically says, oh, really? He said, well, I'm sorry, but you don't have 3 years in the big league, so you can't do that. And I looked at him or I was on the phone, so I just said, you can't make an exception this one time? And he says, well, no, we can't. I said, okay, I quit. And he said, you quit? I went, yeah. So I quit and I hung up the phone. Now, that was probably something stupid to do, but that's the way I felt. I told him that my family was a lot more important than the game of baseball. And we'd already won 2 World Series, so the only place I had to go was down anyway. Well, about an hour later, the phone rings, and it's Pete. And he's kind of laughing a little bit, and he said, I heard you quit. And I went, yeah, I quit. He said, no, you didn't. He said, look, I've got a place out at the King Arthur's Inn, and I've got a room for you, and I got a room for your mom and dad. And so I went to spring training that year, and Pete's mother-in-law would cook us up food every night. We'd play with the little kids. His kids were young. And my mom and dad and I got a chance to be there, go through spring training, and basically not have to answer all the questions of what is still an unsolved mystery with my sister from 1977. That's Pete Rose. I know of people where Pete have called them after they've just got back from battle, got back from war, they've lost an arm or a leg, or been hurt somewhere where Pete's gone to visit them in the hospital, where he's called them up on the telephone. That was him. Yeah, he made a mistake by gambling, but you know what? We all have made mistakes. And there's an addiction there. But I am tired of people calling in on talk shows and saying Pete was a bad man. You know what? If you were in a room with him for 10 or 15 minutes, you would leave being a fan of his, and he'd have you laughing so hard because of his sense of humor. And everything that he did back in those days, he did it because he loved the game of baseball. And I've changed my mind on the way I thought. When he first got caught for gambling, I wanted him to come out and say, hey, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. And he didn't do that. And if that'd been me or another ball player, we probably wouldn't have said a whole lot about it. You'd say, well, you made a stupid mistake. But this is Pete Rose, 4,256 hits. And so obviously he's going to get a lot more attention than somebody who is not that well recognized in the sport of baseball. But I've changed my mind. And the reason I've changed my mind is because, yes, I don't think you should bet on baseball. But if you watch any game today, and right in the background, it's going to say FanDuel or some other way that you can bet on the game of baseball. And that seems to be okay if Major League Baseball is making millions or billions of dollars now on your gambling. But it was wrong for Pete. Let's not be hypocritical about it. If it's bad and Pete made this horrible mistake, then why is it now good so everybody else can be betting on the games of baseball? Well, that's kind of my soapbox for today. I love Pete Rose. I loved him as a friend. I loved him as a teammate. And I loved him because he helped me establish a relationship with a young lady that now is the best thing to ever happen to me, and that's my wife, Olga, of 42 years. Pete, we're going to miss you. And I don't know that I'll ever be able to watch another ball game where I don't think about you, go to another ball game where I don't think about you, and just know that you're well loved. Let me tell you one other thing. It also has reminded me that at some point in time, we all are going to come to the end of the road. And Pete's one of those guys that I thought would live to be 1,000. He was bigger than life. And then all of a sudden now you see him as a frail man of 83 years of age pass away. And my one concern is, and I've heard this, I heard Pete had met with a preacher. And I certainly hope that, because one day we all are going to have to kneel and bow down in front of Jesus Christ. And when he's either going to say, well done, my good and faithful servant, or get away from me, I don't know you. As we get older in our life, that is critical. It is critical that you make your reservations right now so that when something bad happens, you know without a doubt that you're going to go to heaven. That's my encouragement for you today. It's my encouragement for everyone that I know, whether you be a ball player or not a ball player. One day, we're going to meet Jesus face to face. Let's be ready. I love you, Pete.